I'm going to do the closed Roy Lopez Martinez variation in two sections, which aren't just going over like theory or whatever, but rather looking at games from different types of moves that can be seen from the other side. There are going to be a few transpositions, but all of these games start with pretty normal closed Roy Lopez, Martinez variation, and then b5, bishop, b3, and then d6. In theory, again, there are transpositions, at least one. I don't know. I didn't really look through the games too heavily, but I know at least one of them is transposing. But this is the general idea of the position, then a4. And these are the defining moves of what I'm going to look at. Of course, in this here, I think a3 might actually be more popular than a4, and you know, there are other ways of playing, but we're going to be looking at this in particular. So a4, and then I believe this is the deviating move, in which, between these games, and I think I mentioned this already, but I think I'm going to do this in two sections. So there will be another set of, I believe, 4 games with different move orders. Different moves on move 8 for the opponent, or move 9 or 10. Because I believe there are multiple sections in the book I'm looking at which go over bishop to d7. So this game continues bishop to b7, which is an interesting move. The bishop is more so supposed to be on this diagonal. However, it's certainly not useless here, and I'm not actually too confident this is that bad. But Engine does prefer bishop d7, slightly misplaced, but I mean there are kind of different ideas. But also, I mean, the bishop isn't doing too much, except for maybe annoying the plans with c3 and d4, because now this pawn is hanging, although it can be protected at times in rook e1, which sometimes transposes to other d3 type positions. But it's fine, and the key part here is you gotta find a way to defend this pawn, because while it is defended by this directly, there is this attack on the rook. So this defends it with both the bishop, but more so the queen. Here connects it to the queen. You know, here would connect it to the queen. Here it can't be taken. We'll look at b4 later. I believe this will be in the next video. I don't remember exactly what's chosen, but yeah. And in this game, so we're looking over this, and I'm looking over a line where you go bishop to d2 here. Knight c3 is the main move, but this is very interesting, and in the castle you actually play knight a3, and then people play the wrong move, which is b4. So we get castles, which is very logical. It's just a developing move. And knight a3. So now we're putting more pressure on the square. If it were to be our turn again, we could win a pawn, but it of course is not. And the move that's supposed to be played is this. This position with knight a7 has been reached one time in the database in which I'm using here, as well as this b4 move, which we'll be looking at in the game, has also been reached one time, which is this game. b4 is more common. At least it is, go here, it's more common if you change this to, what is it? How do you do this? You click on this and then here b4 is seen more, which makes sense. You're dealing with this threat, and you know, this move just, it feels like you're putting the knight at the wrong spot. Although oftentimes the knight actually does go there, but here it wouldn't really make sense except for the fact that it's the best move. But yeah, this square often is occupied by the knight, but b4 just kind of seems forced to many people. Or, I mean, you could also take, but then, this is really gross, so. I'm actually curious as to what the eval on takes is. It's not, okay, yeah, it's pretty terrible. With this and this. So we get this, and here you go here, and the plan is to get the knight here and occupy these squares, go here, and then they try to kick you, then they're weakening squares around their king, and maybe potentially creating a threat with a pin, or just here. Many things could come from this attack with the h-pawn and so on. And if they don't kick you, then the knight's just hanging out there, and this is also a great square, so this I do believe is how the game is continuing. Let me just go back to the game here. Can I make this, maybe if I go to analysis? Yes, okay. And they follow up with bishop c8, which I believe one of the plans that the book I'm reading looks at is knight to d7, after which you just continue with your plan. And I believe this is probably done partially to push the f-pawn, or at least threaten to do so. Are there any other reasons for this? If this structure occurs, I don't think that's a big deal. I think it's mostly to just try to get something going with that pawn. Threaten that, maybe it defends something in the future. The c5 square sometimes is used. Although that is getting rid of the ability to push c5, which is of note too. So they continue with this. I don't really understand what this move is attempting to do, other than the fact that the bishop kind of belongs to the diagonal, but then why did it go here in the first place? And it's not like it's completely terrible here. I just don't really see what this is doing. As we see here, after a5 is played, which is a good move, and often seen to restrict this pawn and stop it from protecting this pawn, lock it up here, potentially give your knight an outpost in the future if this pawn gets pushed, as it's very often is the plan. a5 is just a very nice move in general. Also gives you the bishop to a4 square, which is perhaps even more important than anything I just mentioned, especially in some more like novel lines, which I've been looking at. It allows for those, but it's also, even in less novel lines, this does get seen as pretty important. But yeah, this locks the pawn structure and a potential outpost here. So we see this, which is actually the best move. Oops. Okay, I have to get back. Okay. Instead of this, I believe after bishop d7, I believe the suggested move was, I want to say c3, or no. No, I'm insane. Although I don't think c3 is too terrible. Yeah, it's a very normal move in this kind of position, but it's better to just continue with this plan. But another move that makes an appearance here again is a5, which Engine seems to dislike over time, and maybe like a little more. I don't know, it's not the strongest engine, not most reliable, but yeah, this is just to iterate that that's a very common plan in these kinds of structures, which I think is seen even more so in a different line that I will go over, maybe it's next video, I don't know. But, okay, hopefully I stopped clicking the wrong key. I could also just use the buttons, then I would never mess it up. A little laggy, which is annoying, but well. So here we see a4, and here we see this pin, which is a little annoying. I mean, it's certainly not nothing, but I mean, that's a lot of tempo getting used, and this bishop's going to get attacked again. I reckon the reason they played this move so quickly instead of, I don't know, maybe another move like rook b8, which almost certainly is going to get played anyways, I would think, is that after this they kind of can't go to the square. But I don't know if that's really the point. I mean, you kind of want the bishop on this diagonal anyways, no? Because actually one of the key parts of this maneuver here is that the bishop is on this diagonal, so it can't take it and ever, ruin the pawn structure. Or, not that opponent f5 is always going to be a liability, but it's usually going to, be a bit worse and just ruining the center and all that. So the bishop here is actually kind of great. And by going here, you're actually no longer on this diagonal, because after the next move, which is played here, they could stay on the diagonal, but then what was the point of going here? So of course they're going to go back, otherwise their move is completely illogical, right? Let me make sure this is following the game. Oh, we see c3 first. But yeah, if we were to, for example, see this move immediately, then they want bishop takes, trading out the bishop, and that's just usually not something you want to do. And if they go back, there's no point to really any of this. I guess, yeah, they're preserving the pin, but now they're allowing this, so yeah, you really do want to keep the bishop on this diagonal, so it's just like, seems kind of nonsensical to do this. But player here starts with the better first move, I guess, which is c3, and perhaps the most common thing in the Ruy Lopez is trying to expand with c3, d4. There are probably other more common things, but yeah, this is a very common plan. B takes is usually recommended, and yeah, that's what gets played. Bishop b6 is another thing that it's looking at, which, there's not really. Imagine moving your bishop all that. That's just so much for nothing. That's not a very human move, because it's admitting a mistake, pretty much. Yeah, sure, it's changed slightly. There's no longer a pawn protecting this bishop, but that doesn't really matter. And in fact, you'd rather the queen protect it than the pawn, because the queen's not doubling it. Well, it depends on the situation. Like, for example, rook here, okay. You can't take it with the queen if there's multiple attackers on it, so it's restricting the knight's movement. Not that's really a big deal. It's just, yeah, it's just like, there's no way this is getting played, because the situation hasn't changed drastically in a way that supports it, and you went here for a reason, right? That's admitting a mistake, and it's not a big enough mistake for that mistake to get admitted. So here we see the knight go back. This is incredibly slow. Yeah, that's just a little ridiculous to me, but it is true that your bishop here has no immediate prospects, it seems, and you really just, you want to move the knight to the square and then g3, but you just can't, which means that they're trying to like reroute it like this to c5, or maybe in the future with this knight, where the knight currently stands on f6. Looking at this makes me kind of understand this move even more, I think, because I'm trying to illustrate a point. I'm not trying to say that this move should get played here. But, for example, if the bishop, and there's a knight here too, but the bishop could move, maybe then you could end up with the knight on the square, potentially with some slightly differently placed pieces, but the knight is extra poorly placed here, and that's just so horrid. So, because of that, I think I understand knight d7 even more now. Maybe it's not entirely connected to f-pawn, although it probably slightly is. But yeah, if you can get rid of these pieces, then, or one of these two pieces, then you can bring the bishop here. Preferably the knight, which maybe you could even do with this move. But that, of course, wouldn't be in the other line, because it's just, there's no reason for this to get played. So you see the knight go back. This knight goes to where it belongs, more or less. We want an h3, which is kind of like, yeah, you can kind of just include that. Although this is getting a tempo too, and it's all very good. It goes back, maintaining the pin. That's kind of why it is here to begin with. And bishop a4 is the recommendation of the engine. seeing partially why playing a5 is so good. Although here, it's not immediately apparent. I mean, it's controlling squares though. For example, it's controlling the c6 square, which means that this knight would, if it ever moves, and the c6 thing is played, you know, the pawn's hanging, which matters because of ideas of knight d5. So that's kind of key, because this move not only supports the d5 push, but also kicks away a knight on this square. And it's also controlling this square, which the knight might move to, and then the queen's kind of babysitting it, although there's also the knight. I mean, again, you know, you don't necessarily attack squares because there's immediately anything, but because there could be anything. And here, there's mainly the c-pawn, but you know, this square will get utilized. This square, maybe the rook would want to go to it at some point, so this is a pretty powerful move. I have a feeling that's not what we see in the game, though. We just see h3 after the fact. Which is fine. It's a good move. Yeah, it just kind of makes sense, but I don't think they're playing it for the right reasons. I think they're playing it to play g4, because, you know, I didn't look at the game too much, but I did see this. Knight goes here. It's kind of why you played this, so it makes sense. I assume it wants bishop a4 again. No, it doesn't. It wants you to harass, I guess, while you have the opportunity. Okay, this move's good, but it's not as good. But it makes sense. Same reasons to play it really as before, but I guess there's another more specific thing to deal with now. For example, I don't know, I was thinking after this, you know, this might be a little annoying, but then you have this move, which is very powerful. So because of that, it doesn't really work. So, going back, we see this, knight goes, and we see this, which is a really weird move to me. I don't know why you would ever play this. It doesn't make any sense to me, really. There's no way that, for example, a knight here would ever create a passed pawn. Even with this here, it's not doing anything. It's like kicking the bishop, but like, who cares? But at the same time, I mean, I can relate to the annoyingness of a pin, and they're just trying to break that pin, but it's not really necessary. It's weakening your king. It's just preventing maybe ideas of g3, which could come into play. Granted, that's less likely because knight's not really going to end up on the square unless it goes through f1 to there, which is possible. You could see some idea like this, although with the bishop a4 looming, it's not too likely. But you know, something like this, and then you'd want to be able to play g3, possibly. So it's helping the knights, potentially. It's weakening the king, and it's not really important to you're not trying to do a kingside attack, you're trying to break in the center. So, it's just not a very good move. And I can look at it and I can go, well, I think I understand that's not a very good move, but I could super see myself playing that move as well, because the pin is just so annoying. I'm curious, actually, if you just follow I believe clicking the spacebar follows the top engine line. I'm curious as to when this gets broken and how that occurs exactly. G4 could also come at some point to break it, at some point where it makes more sense, which I don't quite like, because I would like to see. Here they. Okay, so after d3, actually, yeah, that would make sense. One way to deal with the pin is to play d4 and move the queen to d3, is so long as they have no way of harassing the queen, then that is pretty, you know, it's a fine way to deal with it. Okay, so to go back, and we just start seeing pushing. which is just very weird to me. I don't know why bishop a2 appeared for a second. I don't understand that one. Yeah, it seems like it's not a very good move. It's just kind of a waste. No? Yes? I don't know. Well, 58 is... What is it? I guess it stops knight c3 from coming. Because now the fear is this knight c3 move, and then go back. It's not coming with a tempo on both of these pieces. I presume is the idea. I still don't really think it makes sense, but I suppose it's one way of repositioning the pieces. So we just see this trying to harass the bishop, so now the bishop's going to get trapped if nothing happens. So h6 and h5 are two main ideas here. You probably want to be playing h6, because if you don't play h6, then I assume g5 is, like if you play h5, then yeah, g5 is coming, and that could be a bit bad for you. Especially with how much it would restrict this dark squared bishop from ever doing anything until you maybe get c6 and d5 or something of that nature. Or you'd have to like ghetto it. You're playing like rook e1, but cool thing about bishop a4 is it deals with that square. So we see pawn march up. Wait, this actually happens in the game? That's crazy. Okay. And now, wait, why is the knight there? Are we thinking about sacking? Oh, the knight literally... Whoa. Wait. I don't understand. Let's see, what am I missing? I don't know. Let's just play this. Bishop to d5. If that's the best move, which is a very common idea, then I don't really think there's anything. Who cares? I mean, obviously the position's terrible, but doesn't seem any worse than it was before. I don't know. I might be missing something. But now we're really restricting our options, and we have to go from here to here to like here, I guess. Which this isn't a bad square, but that's a lot of time. Whereas this is, I guess, also a lot of time and really terrible too. Looking at it again, actually, yeah, this makes sense to me as the better move. Although, I'm not sure I understand why it's so much better than another option. But yeah, I guess I would rather go through this than do this, because, And they recognize this move, this rook c8, which I guess is partially with the idea of pushing the pawn. Knight comes in. Why is the knight coming in? Takes. Is that strong? I don't know, but then you have double pawns in the f-file, and the double pawns aren't really doing anything together. I suppose if you move this knight out of the way, then you can push f4. But having to push f4 and move the knight away seems like you're losing a lot of tempos, which could be pretty bad for you. So I don't really like this move. I assume the best move is take it back, but we'll see what has thought of that. No, that is a very losing move. Perhaps the reason this move is so disliked by the engine then, and not just like why I look at it and go, is having to do with the fact that you're trying to prevent this. We see bishop c6 as the top move, which prevents the pushing of the pawn. It makes a lot of sense. And bishop b7, which also prevents the pushing of the pawn. We see knight c5 recommended, which is crazy. Oh, I don't like doing that. Okay. So yeah. Looking at this now and being shown the move, that seems pretty obvious. I wonder if was playing this game, if I'd have more like thoughts of that, and I would recognize that in, say, a classical game most of the time. Because it seems very obvious after being shown it. And it's hard to say because I haven't put anywhere near the amount of thoughts that these players have into this game, I think. Maybe this isn't a classical game, but assuming it's a classical game, then surely they put a lot more thought into it and they didn't see it. And they're much better players than I. But yeah, this seems like so obvious. So obvious. So we see this, which just doesn't seem like a very good move. Again, maybe it's not a classical game. This could be a blitz game. But it could be maybe a good move in the fact that maybe taking is kind of bad. And and their calculations that regard are right. Because again, the reason I dislike this move so much is because of taking, which is not, if you take this knight, you are losing perhaps more than before, so. Bishop goes back. I actually find it kind of surprising that we're only going back here. I guess you're attacking the pawn. If it weren't for attacking the pawn, I feel like you'd want to move back more to stop tempos from being gained ever. Not that there's any immediate threat of this, I believe. Because unless this knight has any moves, which I don't think it really has any useful moves, then it's pretty whatever. Well, then there'd be this, and then you'd have to calculate the bishop too. So you just see it go back, whatever. Takes the pawn. And now that it's staying on the diagonal, not only is winning pawn, but it's guarding this pawn. If needed, if this doesn't happen, so. Rook b8, bishop goes. We see this trade, which is changing the position actually better for black, according to the engine. Which, yeah, I kind of agree that it's better for black. Because if you look at the king, it just seems like the center is going to break open and black is going to have all the attacking chances. It doesn't really matter that their pieces are on the back rank because, well, I mean, just the rooks are placed fine. The bishop's easy to get into the action. This bishop's kind of doing something. And their pieces aren't really on the back rank either. They just aren't like super optimally developed. But it's not like white has anything great like with all these pieces, with like the rooks in front of the king or whatever. I don't know. This just seems like by playing these moves, which gave such a strong grip, the king was weakened, and now by trading this off, instead of maybe having this get played at some point, then there's no longer even a strong grip here, and we're just going to see maybe this break open and strong rook and bishops. I assume this gets played. F takes G is shown to be equal, and yeah, so F takes G5 is a perfectly acceptable move. That is probably what I would play. We see this get played though. Knight goes back. This is just dreadful for white, I would say. Although white is supposedly better, I don't really understand how at all. Yeah, I really don't get. White is better here? Oh, white's up a pawn, and they have the strong passed A pawn. I've been looking too much at this side of the board. No. Don't. Go back. Please don't. No, go forward. I don't know what's happening. I hope I didn't lose the analysis. I fear I did, though. Then I'd have to get to the games again. Although this has been, like, kind of long. Maybe I'm not going to do as many analyses as I thought I was going to do. Saved and import game history? No. That doesn't seem useful at all. So yeah, I guess I'll just click. Wait, how do I just start analysis? It's not saved, eh? Okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna end with this, because this is probably going to take longer than I thought anyways. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, bishop back here. Boom, boom. And then we're looking at a line where they do this, and then response to this. Okay, this should get me through the game pretty easily, right? No? Oh, there are still a bunch of... Oh, well, these aren't master games. Okay, it still did not get me through the game. I assume the game goes castles, then after castles... After castles, is the move c3 or no? What kind of position am I looking to get to? Looking to get to a position in which they play b4 with the knight there. Therefore, here the knight move is knight a3, right? I believe the move is knight a3. Yeah, and then b4, then here. And this actually transposed to something else, I guess, but this is the game I'm looking for. Very good. Okay. Here this gets played, and then supposedly this is better for white, and I mean, yeah, I can see that, because there's nothing immediate black necessarily has, but there's a lot of pressure brewing, and that pressure is going to absolutely demolish them if they don't get adequate value out of the pressure that they have through this pawn. Because this extra A pawn is really their only hope of in this game. So here we see takes, which I like a lot. It just helps you add pressure, get pieces in potentially, although there aren't really any entry squares, with the knight covering this, the square bishop covering this square, the square is covered. This square doesn't do anything really because of this square covering this, so there's no real like rook entry. And you can't really break in the center immediately. So it is true that there's nothing immediate. Instead of taking back, we see this, which is probably a pretty critical move. Engine wants queen d2 is the only move to stay balanced, allowing for this. I assume after that, well, no, that doesn't be how it goes. I don't know. So you see this, which is how that would go, but then after, I was thinking maybe this, but this can't happen. So I'm not entirely sure. Engine wants bishop e2 here, and supposedly, I assume after sliding the king over, you potentially have something kind of brewing here, actually, on the king side as white, because the king is kind of umbrellaed from any attacks. There's no real way to properly pressure it. How would this go? Okay, this is very slow with the engine calculating every time. I'm kind of curious though as to the specific threats there, but see bishop to e2, which is, I think, a very good move. And it's just going after this pawn, makes sense. If this gets pushed, I assume it's fine. Although it is the best move, but it should still be holdable as seen with the eval bar. So queen a4 gets played, which makes sense. It's tying the queen down to the knight. Knight doesn't really have anywhere to go immediately unless it wants to go here, which I don't think is really the best position for the knights, as from there I don't know if it really has many great prospects. And in fact, is there another threat that I don't see? Because I don't understand why that's so amazing. Oh my god, the A-pawn's getting pushed, yeah. So that just wastes time with that. So I guess they have to be pretty accurate. Or something that... maybe I'm wrong. Why is this so bad relative to this? I guess because the knight maybe is... no, I don't understand fully. This gets played. What is the plan here? Queen takes h4. So I guess part of why maybe this is so bad is it blocks the queen from going to h4, which is not something I really saw. This happens. Okay. This supposedly is inaccurate, apparently. Or, okay, I'm just changing its mind. So, this is very bad, but that's probably from like some long engine calculation. I have a feeling that's not very human to like know for certain this is bad without spending a ton of time. So I'm not even gonna bother, because I think that comes down to very specific moves rather than just some positional ideas. And now here white is getting kind of destroyed. And at this point, after the trade, it's just, ugh. I mean, the knight is just going here, and as long as this pawn gets stopped, which with the bishop and the rooks, it's very difficult to get this to actually do anything. It just seems very dreadful. And yeah, maybe I was hallucinating, kind of. Because I wasn't really looking at the bishops hanging there, I was just kind of thinking positionally it is kind of terrible. But I certainly wouldn't be looking at this position in a game I was playing if I didn't have the eval bar here, and I didn't see that the bishops were on the same file and about to get killed. Then I probably would think this is like a draw. If I give white, for example, an extra move, yeah, this is a draw, so. Although there might be other specific things to the exact moves I played, but probably not, because it's roughly the same thing. So. You see this rook sack out of desperation, I suppose, with the idea of being able to, you know, you lose the exchange, but you can save it, because now this knight has this f1 squared opened up. And then you're just hoping that your pawn's going to work. But the pawn's not going to do anything. I mean, this bishop has just such a difficult time contesting this bishop. And that's not to mention the two rooks. So, this pawn is just kind of screwed. Although you do have these connected pawns in the center, so there is some hope of this being choked. Especially if this isn't a classical game, or if time is very low. Here they just hang a bishop. So, I guess that's just going to be it. Because I mean, I could fetch another game. But I think maybe I will just do a regular video going over like the theory and ideas that I learned from the book, and well, also just thinking about it. I mean, the book doesn't really give you all the ideas. I mean, it definitely mentions some ideas, but it's mostly just notation. So, yeah. I think I'll do that, because analyzing a game takes a while. Or maybe I haven't been here as long as I thought I was. I thought this was a while, but maybe it's not. I'm about to find out, I suppose.